Are you looking for a river cruise steeped in history and mystery? Then stay with us for a Balkan Odyssey with 2 nights in Transylvania. My guest today is Judy Nickerson, owner of Judy's Luxury Travel and Cruise Holidays of Monument located in Colorado. Judy is a luxury travel advisor and has been designing custom luxury vacations for her clients in and around Colorado and across the country for 16 plus years. Hi, Judy. Welcome to RTE Travel Talk.
Hi, Ken. Thank you.
Great to have you with us, Judy. So, Judy, the last time you and I talked, you had mentioned that you were off on a bucket list vacation that it was very personal to me, a Balkan Odyssey with 2 nights in Transylvania with Avalon Waterways. Being that I have ancestors in Transylvania, I am totally interested to find out how that went, what your recommendations are for it as a luxury vacation, where you went, what you did, and all for the benefit of our viewers. So what's the scoop? What's the scoop on the Balkan Odyssey, Judy?
Well, it was such a fabulous trip, and it was so comprehensive. It was difficult to narrow down the highlights because it seemed like they were all highlights.
Oh, fantastic.
The eastern part of Europe is so different than the western part of Europe. Some of the things that there was so much to learn. The language was different in every country, and the currency was different in every country. So we went to 4 countries: Romania, Bulgaria, Serbia, and Croatia.
Wow.
And just seeing those countries, they're beautiful. The landscape was gorgeous. We were there in September, October, and everything was green, and the farmland and the mountains almost reminded me of the mountains in West Virginia.
Okay.
Or Pennsylvania. They're rolling hills, but there's some parts that are more mountainous. But they had a lot of agricultural land, so they grew wonderful fresh fruits and vegetables. And of course, they were all in season, and so the food was delightful. There was a lot of time spent on motor coaches.
Okay.
So if you're going, you need to know that in advance. But there's so much to see, even looking out your window. But it is more tiring when you're taking buses everywhere. It wasn't like the western part of the Danube or northern Danube or the Rhine, where the ship pulls into a quaint little city and you can get off and walk around and have a short tour, and which is mostly what happens on those cruises and the French cruises.
Right.
You have to actually get on a bus.
Okay.
So just something to take note.
There's quite a bit more, quite a bit more travel involved with it.
But the trade-off is that you get to learn so much about an area that most Americans are not familiar with. And the history, and they have recent history in the 90s. To me, that's recent. I remember these wars they had.
Right, yeah.
And had to fight for their liberty. So for Dave and I, we really enjoyed all that history because we are history buffs and love to learn all of the different things. But to see the bullet holes in the homes, so many places, that was tough. And how people were tortured, that was a bit heartbreaking.
So this was the Serbian-Croatian wars, right?
Right. Yes. Right.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yes, it really is fascinating.
Yeah.
Each stop and each bus tour had so much history and interesting things to talk about that it's hard to summarize that.
Right.
There were a couple of highlights I can talk about. Was the archaeological dig. It was over 6,000 years old. They started this dig in the 50s. And came up with artifacts that was almost 8,000 years total ago. So that's quite a long time. And we found that interesting. There's just not one place that you should miss. We did not take a tour that it had rocks like they have in Arizona. And here in Colorado, we have some Garden of the Gods, red rocks. We have gorgeous rock formation. So we just didn't do that. But the people that went really enjoyed it. Transylvania was fascinating. And the hills are beautiful. And it was so interesting to see that bronze castle.
Right.
Because although that's a myth and a story that was made up, but the the castle was the basis for the story. It was really fun for us because we had dinner there after the tour. And then as we left, a mist rolled in and made it look all the spookier than it was. So we felt, and in fact, our tour guide, he said he lived there all his life and didn't remember ever seeing that mist roll in at that time of the day. So it was specially made for us.
Right on cue. Creepy as all get out.
Exactly. And of course, in that castle they played up, there were little scenes set up in movies inside there that would kind of scare you. But it was so fun. It was a very fun tour and a wonderful area. That whole Transylvania area was beautiful.
So did you have 2 nights in Transylvania?
We did.
Yeah. And is it something that you need to have 2 nights to get a good feel for it?
Well, we loved it so much, I can't imagine trying to condense it
Really?
into one night, because you'd only have one day there. And so you get in the morning. There were actually 2 castles that we saw. It was Pele's castle, the first one. And that was interesting. And I wouldn't have wanted to miss that. Then the Braun castle, it's a bus ride, of course. So by the time you get back, and I think 2 days are pretty important. Oh, and the Alps, the Transylvanian Alps are gorgeous. And just the stories, and the churches are so different than the churches in Western Europe. The churches were so different in that they didn't even have any pews or places to sit down. So the people would stand during the entire service and they would sing. And while the minister was speaking, everybody stood the whole time. So it would be a couple of hours that they'd have to stand there. That was kind of an unknown, interesting fact. One of the churches was used as a fortress because that was the only place they could gather and not be heard.
Amazing history.
Oh, yeah. So the deal for Dave and I, we just didn't want to miss a minute of it. So we just kept pushing and pushing and listening, and pretty soon your head almost explodes from the amount of information you're given, and then to come home and remember it all. Fortunately, Avalon has a wonderful app, the Avalon Go.
Okay.
And you can get on your phone and look at every little town you visited, and it has your flights and all the list of everything, what's happening in each town, so you can go back and look at that. And then, of course, the pictures that we had, we can help. It helps us remember exactly what we did. However, as much as we love this trip, I wouldn't recommend it to the first-time river cruiser.
And why is that, Judy?
The Danube or the Rhine are what I would offer clients first, because it's so quaint and so beautiful. And even though this was beautiful, they didn't have the quaint little towns. You'd get off the ship and walk through and see all the beauty of those small towns. And I would say someone who's been on at least one European river cruise would enjoy this trip, and you have to like history and enjoy moving about.
Right. So if I hear you correctly, this one's a little bit more work.
Yes,
but
exactly.
But it's worth the work. It's worth the work for all of the history. And if you're into that kind of thing, it's right up your alley.
Exactly. Yes.
Now you mentioned that 2 of your favorites are the Rhine and the Danube. What river was this? This was on the Danube as well, but the lower part, right? Is that
Yes,
right?
that's correct. The part that goes into the Black Sea, the eastern part. We're only like 40 some people, guests on the ship, almost as many as our crew member.
Wow.
So, but it's a ship that holds 140 people. So anyway, we got extra special attention from all the wonderful.
I'm sure the service had to be absolutely impeccable with a 1-to-1 crew ratio.
Absolutely, it was. Yeah. Yes, and so and it was a varied age group of people. So that was interesting. There were younger people on the boat enjoying it as much as we did. They probably could last longer, but we came home very tired. And the one thing I wish that we'd had more is one more day in Zagreb, because there was much to see there, and we would have loved to spend some time in that city. But we had to get up early for a plane ride out of Zagreb. So we just stayed in the hotel and ate dinner and went to bed. So that's a thing I would do, is spend another night there.
And really, when you talk about that, the thing that made it somewhat tiring is the running back and forth, long bus rides and that sort of stuff.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And we're not spring chickens, so a lot of walking. If you're going to do those tours, and they're on all sorts of terrain. We went to a Bohemian dinner, and it was really fun. And there was entertainment, and they had us up dancing, and the food was excellent. But you had to walk on cobblestone, so that was tough in
Yeah.
the night, and it's dark, and I had mistakenly put on a pair of heels.
Oh
So
dear.
so don't do that.
Yeah.
So it
That's
was great.
that's probably a very good river cruise tip, is to leave the heels at home.
Absolutely. Yeah. Even just wedge heels, small heels,
Yeah.
but nonetheless, you really need that stability.
So what for you guys? What was the highlight of the trip?
Well, I think that archaeological dig, and
Really?
then the Parliament Palace in Bucharest. Yes. That's the biggest building in the world other than the Pentagon.
Really?
Yes, it's huge. It's gorgeous. However, it was built by the authoritarian ruler at the time. It was so opulent and it was beautiful, but the people were starving while he built this
Yeah.
over the top opulent. They're using it now. However, this building is sinking a quarter of an inch a year because it's so heavy from all
Wow.
this beauty and
Yeah.
opulence. Like I said, we enjoyed Zagreb and wish we'd have spent more time there because that would have been a highlight. We also had in Croatia, we had a farm to table luncheon
Okay.
at a farm, which was really fun and good. And we got to see the farm and how they really operated it. Good. And we had another wine tasting. And we walked into the room. You look at the table, and everybody had, all 42 of us had three beautiful glasses to taste wine. It was just spectacular in that way. So
the one thing that, in talking to you, the one thing that really comes across is, more so than any other river cruise I've talked to folks about, is just how much history is going to be involved, and immersive experiences are going to be involved on this particular itinerary.
yes, I would say that's true. Even though, most of the cruises have plenty of history, but this was different history.
Yeah.
So
It's more recent in a lot of cases.
And years ago too. But
Yeah.
but nonetheless, it's just, I guess as Americans, we haven't learned the history in Eastern Europe as much as we've learned the history in Western Europe. But this was like going to Mars almost, and saying, "Oh my goodness, what is this and what is that?"
All the tours and stuff that you were on, they were all included as part of the package with Avalon?
Yes, I don't think we paid extra for any tour on this trip.
Oh, excellent. How were the guides with Avalon, Judy?
Oh, they are superb. Everyone was excellent, friendly. They spoke great English. We could understand everything they said, and their knowledge base was terrific. The people in that area are beautiful people.
Right.
They have gorgeous features and friendly and nice. And of course, everybody speaks English. And which brings me to another thing that's important for people to know is the different currencies in different countries. They don't
Okay.
all go by the euro. So you are at a quandary as to what to do about getting currency in each stop, because you're not there that long. And Avalon generally pays all the tips, but we like to give extra tips, especially to people that have gone out of their way and done some really nice things for us. We stopped at a coffee shop. We each ordered a coffee, and then come to find out she didn't take credit cards, and we didn't have their local currency.
Oh dear. Yeah.
Yeah. So we ended up giving them American dollars, which they would accept euro and American dollars, but to get the exchange rate. So we ended up probably tipping or paying for those little things a lot more. They probably loved us. So
Okay.
my suggestion after having done that would be to get maybe $50 in each country, because you're not there that long. And if you
Right.
can get as little as $50 and get it in smaller change, you're better off. Those are high recommendations I would give people.
Well, Judy, that's absolutely wonderful information.
Thank you.
If folks wanted to find out more information about this type of cruise, or perhaps another river cruise, how would they get hold of you?
Well, they can email me. My email is jnickerson@cruiseholidays.com, or my phone number is 719-487-0056. And I'm
Okay.
glad to talk to anybody anytime. And we've been on so many river cruises, we kind of know the ropes.
Well, that sounds like a plan to me. Very interesting. I have ancestors in Transylvania and Romania, and we've always thought about going there. So to hear that extra history that you're going to receive on it, that just makes it all the more enticing. We're really looking forward to that sometime.
Oh, you should do it, and sooner the better.
Yeah, for sure. How
Because
are
you
things?
never know.
Yeah, exactly. What's on the docket for you guys next year?
Our next trip is scheduled for the end of February, and we're going to go take a Nile river cruise. And we're going to fly into Jordan and see Petra. And then we're flying over to Cairo, and then we fly to Luxor and get on Avalon Waterways river cruise. That's a lot of history. See all those pyramids and the Valley of the Kings. And so we travel with another couple, and we're all very excited. We planned this over a year ago, and hopefully it works.
Well, fingers crossed. I have a good feeling about 22 and 23. I think, it's a little dark out there right now, but I think we're coming to the end of this thing. So
We have to be.
yeah, exactly.
Well, we are taking one other trip. We're going next August, the end of August, out of London, out of Southampton.
Okay.
And taking an Azamara cruise down the coast of France and into Lisbon. So we'll get to see Bilbao and Bordeaux. It'll be a wonderful cruise. That's where my traveling group is headed for our next year's cruise. People can keep that in mind and let me know.
That sounds very interesting. We're going to have you back to regale us with the stories of that Azamara cruise down the coast of France.
Yeah.
All right, Judy. Well, this has been great. Here's a wish for you and Dave for safe and happy travels. May the wind always be at your back. And I hope to see the both of you on a Lido deck real soon.
All right. And thank you so much.
Take care, Judy.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
And that about wraps it up for today, folks. A very special thanks to my guest, Judy Nickerson of Judy's Luxury Travel and Cruise Holidays of Monument. If you'd like to reach Judy about this river cruise or another fantastic river cruise in Europe, I'll leave her contact information in the description. If you'd like to reach us, send a question to questions@realtravelexperts.com, visit our website, realtravelexperts.com, or leave a comment. We always respond. And as always, folks, if you enjoyed this content, a like, subscribe, and a ring of the bell is certainly appreciated and helps us to spread the word. So until next time, happy travels.